Good afternoon, and thank you for attending the January Transportation U AZ event. Transportation U is a national hands-on interactive mentoring program that offers girls ages 13 through 18 an introduction to a wide variety of transportation careers. It is connected to Women's Transportation Seminar, or WTS, which is a women's organization for transportation professionals. I am Michael Book, a strategic communications specialist in HDR's Phoenix office. HDR is an international company specializing in engineering, architecture, environmental, and construction services. If you have any program or event questions, you can send me an email at michael.book@hdrinc.com. My email address is being placed in the chat right now. This event is also supported by Varsha Reshabendran, engagement specialist at WTS International, and Bree Balke, community relations coordinator at Valley Metro. So at this time, I would like to ask if you are a teacher hosting a group of students to please send me an email with your school, city, and the list of participating students. At the end of the program, we will be randomly drawing one student's name to win a prize. If you are a student who is logging in on your own today, you can also type your school, city, and name in the chat to be able to be eligible to win the prize. So each June, Transportation U AZ has a summit, typically in Washington, D.C., although last year was online. And I will be selecting one student to go on the trip with a mentor or to attend virtually, whichever it is this year. But one person would be selected in the next few months as well. The eligibility for attending the summit is being a female student who is currently a junior or senior in high school. The Metropolitan Phoenix WTS chapter pays the expenses for the student to attend the event, which features a variety of transportation speakers and facility tours during the summit. It is really a great experience. And if you're interested in pursuing a future in the transportation industry. So the way to have a chance to do this is to continue attending these events. And secondly, to write a 500-word essay about what interests you about the transportation field and how the summit would benefit your future career. And if you qualify and are interested, please work on your essay. The deadline for submission will be February 28th of 2022. And now for today's events. MB Finnerty has worked at Valley Metro as the public art administrator for almost 20 years. She has a BA in art history from the University of Arizona and an MA in art history from the University of Texas at Austin. She lived in Japan for several years and spends as much time traveling as possible. At Valley Metro, she oversees the public art program, which includes working with stakeholders to bring on great artists in to create fabulous art. She manages the art projects from contracts to fabrication and finally installation and maintenance. She has been privileged to work with outstanding artists who all contributed to making light rail an important part of the Phoenix metro area. So MB, thank you for joining us today and presenting to the Transportation U AZ group.
Thank you so much for having me. It's my honor and pleasure to be here. So I am really excited to be here. When Mike invited me, he kind of said, talk about, what you do and how you got there. And so I'm going to give one slide and a little brief introduction of myself and how I became a public art administrator, because I think not a lot of people realize what we do or how you get there. But what I'm really excited that obviously in transit, you've got a lot of STEM, but it's nice to know that there's actually a lot of STEAM. So along with the technology and the math and the science, there's really a lot of art and planning and making places livable. And that's transit is all about taking you to places. And so it is very exciting for me to talk about this. I'm going to talk about two themes in my intro, and that is my love of travel and my love of art, and how they both really work out well in my job. So here's me at a tender young age in Thailand, where I was actually born. My parents were in the foreign service, so I did travel a lot when I was very young. And when I was in school, I decided I was going to travel, be in the diplomatic corps, follow my father's footsteps. So I figured I'd be the Secretary of State, something fun like that. The other thing I wanted to do was be a renowned artist, a great painter, someone you'd see in the museums. So I went to college and I kind of realized that I was not going to be be able to make it as an artist, though I still love doing art. But what I really loved was history, art history. So I went to school. I was going to be a professor of medieval art. And about the time I was finishing up my master's, I thought, I really don't want to do this. I don't want to go for my PhD. This is not the road for me. So instead, I took a job in Japan. And I fell back on my second love, which was traveling. So I went to Japan, taught English for a few years. I came back to the States, really wanting to travel more, but not sure how to do that. And then kind of wanting to get back into the arts and not sure how to do that as well. So my sister suggested that she had been working at the city of Mesa, and she said, you know, what you need to do is you need to volunteer. If you want to get a job and you don't necessarily have experience, start volunteering. And that was really the best advice that I've ever had. It was really about get out there. And if you have to work, I think I worked at, I worked at a Dillard's department store so that I could support my volunteer habit. And then the volunteer position turned into a part-time job, and that turned into a full-time job with City of Mesa. But that wasn't good. They actually, the art department was getting smaller. And so I was going to become a 911 operator because I went back to the idea of I'll work in the arts. And I was just about to, I'd passed the test. I was going to be accepted in a couple of cities, or I had been accepted in a couple of cities. And then I got the call to do an interview for Valley Metro Public Art. And I thought, can't hurt to try. So I went ahead, did the interview, and I arrived here. And so I was able to use the work that I had done, again, as a volunteer originally with City of Mesa Public Art, and that all transferred. But transit is a little bit different. So I want to talk about that. Public art and transit is a little bit different. We share a lot of the same ideas as all the other public art. You'll see public art, City of Phoenix, City of Tempe, Mesa, Glendale. They all have great public art in the cities, Phoenix particularly. But one of the things about transit public art is that because it's all about transit, and in this case, it's light rail, you really have to be involved in the people that are around you and the people that are using your transportation system. So the federal government decided in 1995 that transit was a good idea. And that was great because they actually allowed for funds to be used to hire artists to be part of the design. So what I'm going to talk about today in the next couple slides is more about what I like. You're going to see a whole lot of pictures of art because that's what I really like. And I'm going to just describe a little bit about the process. Hopefully, a lot of you have been on the light rail, have seen we have artwork at every station. I'll talk a little bit about that. But really the best thing for me is, as I'm not an artist, I actually get to work with artists, and that is equally celebratory. So I'm going to populate this with lots of slides of artwork and artists. This is a list of all the places where we have artwork. Light rail is exciting because not only do we have artwork in stations, but we have smaller projects on the traction power substations, those little tiny buildings that power the light rail. We have smaller projects for emerging artists. We have bigger projects, and we now have some a bridge, and we have a garage, and there's a lot of new things happening all the time. But one of our staples is that we always have artwork on the stations. Our artist selection process is very similar to the ones you'll see in other cities, other art departments. We have a call to artists, which will be nationwide, and we essentially ask artists to send in images of their past work. So what we ask for, this is called an RFQ, or request for qualifications, rather than asking artists to design a project before they come. We want to select them based on past work, and then we bring them in, and then they meet with the community, and then they start designing. So I think it's a much better process. You actually have people that are invested. One of the great things about public art is that we do use the community. We have artists on our regional arts committee, but we also have community members who make up the stakeholders make up the selection panels, and we select the artist, and then we rank them again on their past work, not on their proposals. Once the artist is brought on board, they meet with the selection panel, they meet with the community, and they do research. Every station is in a different part of a different neighborhood, and it's really important for them to understand that neighborhood and understand the history and the cultural context. Neighborhoods grow groups of people will live there, and then those groups of people will leave, and a different group of people will come in, or you might have an area where one group of people have been there forever. They all have a different identity, and it's really important that the artists find that identity. It doesn't mean, you can see on the artwork on the left here, this is all about the community and the history and the people who live there. Not every artwork is going to be about history. A lot of them are, and it's great either way. But some communities want something modern, abstract, something vibrant in a different way. Other communities really want to tell their story. So it's important that that artist, when they come on board, really gets to understand what's there. So one of the great things about this is the artists will then come up with a concept. They come up with this concept, and we show it to everybody. We show it to the selection panel, and actually the selection panel, which maybe 5 to 7 people, they'll be on board with that artist from the start to the end. So when the artist comes up with the concept, we show it to this committee first, very first we show it to our safety, security, operations, and maintenance, and engineering and construction staff, which is a whole bunch of people who all can say no, that the artwork is too dangerous looking, or you're going to slip and fall on that, or you might poke your eyes out, or it's going to be too bright, and the oncoming traffic will have a big reflection, and fire and brimstone will fall from the sky. This is a horrible idea. So I have to go through my council of no. But once I get the artwork that they approve of, then I take it to this selection panel, and then we take it out to the public, and we get as much input as we can, so that we're obviously, not everyone is going to be happy, but we really try to make sure that the artist hears from everybody, so that as they're moving forward, that they've gotten that input that's so important. So let me give you an example. So this is a station, and if I handed this to you and said, okay, put your artwork on it, where are you going to put your artwork? All of our stations have a similar pattern. We have these vertical panels, vertical columns, I'm sorry, and horizontal, essentially horizontal columns. We have canopies, we have trees. These are overhead catenary poles and wires. But the key part of these stations is they're very long and they're super narrow. So it's a completely different story when you had that empty station, and okay, I could think of places to put my artwork, and here it is with people in it. And that's what's really important, that the artists understand that first and foremost, these stations are really about moving people back and forth. These stations have to have artwork that doesn't impede people getting on and off. And if there's an emergency situation, that artwork should never be in the way of that. So what I'm going to do first is I'm going to show you some examples, just little tidbits from lots of stations. So I'm going to go through this pretty quickly, just for time. But again, lots of pretty pictures. I think colors and pictures are great. So a lot of the artists will put artwork between the louvers. These louvers are behind the seats. So you'll have these. It's a great opportunity to put flat artwork. A lot of our artists are painters, or used to working flat in 2 dimensions, but a lot of them are also metalsmiths. So here you can see this kind of tile work, and then even 3-dimensional. These actually, the ones on the lower right-hand corner, these kind of beads, they actually turn, so you can turn them. The artist wanted them to spin, but I had visions of people's hair getting caught up in the beads, and just, oh my gosh, no. So those will just spin slowly. Artwork is in the paving and on the railing. In this case, the gentleman you saw in the earlier slide, he also did this piece as well. And the paving would normally be a great place, but what I found, and this job is always about learning on the job. So what I found is that it's not, people spit their gum out, and they get wet and kind of dirty. So we tried, actually, I think I've learned a little bit of lessons. This takes a lot of cleaning and effort to make sure that they still look good. So probably less artwork in the paving from going on, but they also have artwork in the railing and the entryways. I'm afraid the picture on the top right is not the best. That's actually a big, long stone kind of sculptural piece. But you can see how the railings down bottom right would be a great place to put items. There are a couple of large standalone artworks. Occasionally, the artist will have the opportunity to have kind of a bit of extra real estate. You'll have a piece of land just off of the long, narrow station. And in this case, the middle and the right panel show artwork that is in these kind of extra locations. The one on the left, though, you can see some artists kind of thought outside the box and said, okay, I can't have a big thing sitting on the station, but I can certainly have a big thing that you can walk underneath, and that'd be great. So you get artists that think outside the box, you get them a small box and they just think harder. We have artwork with lighting, and this artist also he had an unusually wide station, and he made the artwork very narrow at the bottom and big at the top. We try to keep artwork interesting even at night, so a lot of our artwork has lighting components, but lighting is technology, and technology is difficult to maintain because the artwork, if it's computer generated, those computer components get dated. Imagine having a video display. It wouldn't, with a VHS. I don't know if any of you guys know what a VHS is, but imagine technology that you couldn't find anymore. Again, as I mentioned before, we asked the artists to explore the history and the location. So these are some examples of artists that either looked around at the surroundings or talked with the community members. These bronze pieces on the right-hand side, top right, the artists actually talked with a community for the blind. And so the descriptions on these pedestals actually have poetry or sayings or just some phrases from a blind person, and they're written in Braille. So, again, artists are always surprising me in great and fabulous ways. We also have artwork in the canopies to shade people. One of our biggest attributes, obviously, in the Valley of the Sun is the sun. So these pieces, when the sun is shining above them, have beautiful patterns, which is incorporated again as you walk through. You get the additional effect from the artwork. Crafted objects. I love to see, this was hand chiseled, the one on the top right, the stone, hand chiseled. On the left hand, top left, beautiful mosaics, and then these beautiful cast pieces on the bottom left. So you can see the workmanship in a lot of the artwork that we have on our light rail. And I mentioned TPSS and signal buildings. So these are small buildings that you see 15 by 10 feet maybe around, and they either affect the signal. And sorry, I'm not an engineer, so I'm probably going to get this somewhat wrong, but it's TPSS means traction power substation. So essentially that provides the power that has the light rail go, and the signal buildings actually are next to a signal, and they help do something with the signals that make the trains go. So I'm going to leave that one alone. But anyways, these small buildings are great because it's a small flat wall. And so while some of those, all of the station artwork are very large budgets and really should be done by experienced artists, it's nice to have places for emerging artists to come out. And so this is very much something that I'm really proud of, that we have this emerging artists category. So if you're coming from a studio background, this might be your first for your first big project, and it's still a substantial budget, so it's worthwhile. So again, as I was saying, I'm not an artist, but I do get to work with them, and I get to work with other people who also are arts people, arts professionals, are people who love art. I go to conferences with other people, and our job is to really make sure that the artists have an environment that they can thrive in. Some artists are amazing business people. They know their project managers, fabulous. They know what they're doing. Other artists aren't quite as sure. So part of my job, not only do I work through that process that I showed you in terms of the selection process and managing that, and I manage the artist contracts, which is fun in itself. But I also get to work with the artists, and I'm a liaison between the artists and the engineers and designers. So as the stations are going up and being designed, the architects and engineers work with the artists to make sure that the artwork is integrated into the station. So what I'm going to show you next is kind of part of the process that I really love about working with the artists, and that is seeing their initial images when I sit into a dark room with a selection panel and we go ooh and ah and just look at these fabulous images, to seeing how they think and how they start sketching and designing, to seeing how they start fabricating and how they end up with an end product like some of the ones you saw previously. So here's Diego Perez, and these are his application slides. Now, as you can tell, he's an oil painter. He's a fabulous oil painter. He was an artist who applied for the South Central extension. And, just looking at it, my first thought, of course, is, well, we don't have a lot of flat surfaces, and we can't have oil paintings on the station because that's not a really good permanent medium in our outside weather. So this is an artist who's going to have to figure out how to do something a little bit different. He can't just come out and put a beautiful, albeit again, beautiful artwork on our stations. So here's the next another artist that we saw for South Central, Blessing Hancock. again, fabulous. Look at her colors, and look at, she works in metal. She works in this beautiful acrylic kind of plastic material, and totally different. I mean, absolutely different from Diego. And then here's one more. Blessing is from Tucson. Diego is, he was, when he applied, he was in Phoenix, and he's moved over to Seattle, but so I still consider him a local artist. I think he's coming back. Let's hope he's coming back. So Blessing Hancock from Tucson. And then this last one is Mark Riegelman. He's actually out of New York. Now, all three of these artists were selected. So they all have stations on the South Central Extension. But the reason I show you these images is because they're all so completely different. So here's Mark Riegelman. And one of the things he did in New York was he's made these crazy little houses, and he has this little house on a wall, and I don't have the image of it, but there was a house where he would like push it through the city. And he told me that they had to kind of keep an eye out for cops, because they didn't have a permit to push a house that was like 5 by 10 that was set on wheels with a little smoke creator inside the chimney, and they were pushing it around the city, and they didn't have a permit for that. So they would see a cop and they'd kind of like push it down the way. But so we have this artwork completely different from this artwork, which is completely different from this artwork. So if you're in a selection panel, you guys sit in a room, a dark room, and I just show you hundreds and hundreds of slides. Every artist gets anywhere from 8 to 12 slides. So you just sit there and you look at all these slides, and then you have to decide, well, who's going to best represent, what kind of artwork do we think is going to really, what kind of artist is going to do this for us? So this is one of the most fun parts. It's just choosing from this wealth of fabulously talented artists. So let's look at Mark Riegelman. He was one of the few artists that shows his sketchbook, and I love this. So he's at the actual Central and Buckeye, and one of the things that we did was we went out, we had a tour. Some of the community members kind of put together a tour so he could meet the community members. And as we were walking around the neighborhood or taking a bus around the neighborhood, and I remember this specifically because somebody had mentioned that in their youth, they loved it when the ice cream guy came by. And so that comment that it, brought the community together, because all the kids would come out and run and get the ice cream, that brought him to these fabulous, I mean, imagine, these are the tiny people that I would love to have a station with a big archway of ice cream cones, or, the fudgesicle that's slowly melting upside down. They also talked about the beautiful patterns that they saw, and the birdhouses. And so again, he has these crazy ideas that just came from his brilliant mind. These are actually the three designs he first came up with. I love this on the left, which are these huge saguaros. He really was, from New York, he was really taken by these massive saguaros that we have, which are only in this part of the country, of the world. And I really love that. The other one was this bird. And he liked this bird because it was really resilient, and he thought of it as, the community. This bird, the natural habitat was taken out, but this bird was able to make its house and thrive in this area, and he thought that was a really nice analogy for the community. They weren't sure about the bird, the huge bird that was going to be on an OCS bowl, which I don't know if we could have managed that anyways. And they love the cactus, but they said, we don't have saguaros in our front yards, but we do have these. So he changed his cactus. This cactus you can find in people's yards. You use it for food. There's recipes with this. So he created this, and he made this huge. Again, it's a huge sculpture. Here's a child size, so you can see it's about 15 feet high. So it's going to be really gorgeous. That's going to be on the Buckeye Station. I wanted to show you a little bit about the Northwest Extension, because I know that you guys are going to get to learn more about the Northwest Extension on the next call. So we have equally fabulous artists here, and I'm just going to pick out a few of them on the Northwest Extension. So this is 19th Avenue. I don't think you can see my pointer or not, but you're going to be going from 19th Avenue, you go west on Dunlap, and then you hit north, and you see that there's a couple of stations. These first two stations are they're like our standard stations. And then at Mountain View Road, you're going to head west again, and you're going to actually go over the I-17. And I'm sure if you guys are getting out at all, you've seen some of this construction. It's kind of crazy. You go over the I-17 and you get almost to Metro Center, where we have a whole bunch of firsts. We have, I guess I didn't put that slide in. We have just some amazing things happening. So first, I want to show you Pete Goldlust. He's the artist down. He's the first station you'll see on the new Northwest Extension 2. So these were his these were his slides. And come on, who does not love these crayons? These were hand carved. These are crayons that he carved these teeny tiny little amazing things in. And as you look at all the artwork, it's so fun and playful and colorful. And it was kind of funny because Pete applied for South Central Extension as well, and he came up number 2 on almost everybody's list because he's so colorful and so bright and so much fun. But I have no control over the panels. They select who they really want, and he came in number 2 on so many. But on Northwest Extension, he finally did get selected, and I was really happy. And he takes his fun love of kind of crazy kookiness, and he is dealing with the aliens. There was a sighting of the Phoenix lights that happened. I personally did not see them, but apparently other people who I know did. So he's taken us and he's introducing us to all these crazy alien types. The super salad is no longer going to be a super salad, but you have this alien showing up with his forks to have salad. The aliens are going to climb across the top of the station, and fun colors, and it's really going to be fun. So it really is such a playful and charming station. I'm looking forward to it. Here is an example of, all these pieces are going to be made out of cut metal. They're going to have light below it. So one of the things that's important, so it looks great, but you have to have an engineer, has to engineer all of this work. He needs to get a lighting designer to make sure he can get the lighting in. And he's working with the engineers and architects to see how, I'm going to go flip back here really quick. So you see how the screens get integrated into the station. You can see how these creatures on the top that are playing across the top of the station, all those have to be, it looks easy, but is really a lot of work. And then just installing it, he's gonna have to crane these up. We have to put them in before the overhead catenary wires get in. So it's a complex dance, and the artist can't do it alone. I certainly can't do it alone, but it's a great way to learn all these different skills and what other people do. So moving right along, these are some images of, this is so to the right of the screen on both of the, wait, let me see, I'm mixed up. Okay, so on the top image, to the left of the screen is I-17, and on the bottom image to the right of the screen is I-17. So that's the bridge that we're crossing over I-17. And you can see this big elevated station. Now, this is our first elevated station for Raleigh Metro. It's our first parking garage. It is the first time we're spanning I-17, and it's our first staircase artwork. So Northwest Extension is really exciting. And I think you're going to, when you see the presentation for the next presentation, you're going to see a lot of people that are very proud of what they're doing, because these are all firsts for us. And I am proud because the artists have come up with some amazing things. And I'm just going to go over a few of them. But Oliverio Basels, he's from Phoenix, and where's he in Mesa? Anyways, Phoenix metro area. So here's some of his application slides. And the first thing I see when I see this is this amazing use of color. Absolutely gorgeous graphic color that really just reaches out and punches you and grabs you and brings you back in. I love this work. I love the imagery that he's using, obviously looking to his heritage. So really gorgeous. And he was actually selected to work on one of the TPSS stations. He hasn't done a lot of public artwork on large scale. And the TPSS building itself kind of fell through. So we were trying to find where else it was going to be put far away, so you wouldn't be able to see it. So we thought, okay, we need to find some place to really showcase his artwork. And we landed on the stairs. And I'm so glad we did, because gosh darn it, I really want to have more elevated stations, because I want every station to have beautiful mosaic stairs. He designed this, and it's these beautiful hummingbirds, and it is the artwork of I can't even pronounce this, but it's the culture of Jalisco, Mexico. So I apologize, my really bad pronunciation. But these hummingbirds, they fly up this beautiful staircase, and here he is hand making all of these mosaics. So every stair riser is a handmade mosaic, and it is fabulous we went to his home. He's an amazing artist in every aspect, but here he is making this this handmade mosaic staircase, and I'm just so excited. So Mary Schindel is another artist. She's also local. She has graduated, I like to say. She has two stations, this is a TPSS station in Phoenix, and this is a TPSS station. Essentially, it's a screen around the station in Mesa. So she's a perfect example of an emerging artist. She did more of this more studio work, but she has really been branching out into more modern art, and you can see these small, the one on the bottom left was, I believe, a temporary artwork, and the one on the bottom right is at a park. So it's great. I'm not going to take credit, though I'd love to, because she's a fabulous artist and would have gotten there anyways. But it's great that Ballymetric could play a role in getting these smaller pieces, because then she was able to move on to these bigger pieces. So this bigger piece, this is really crummy drawing, and I apologize, but this is the ramp wall that you go up. So if this is Mountain View. So in order to span I-17, the train has to go up this ramp wall. So right at the edge, the left side of the screen is where imagine the train is going to cross over I-17. She was originally selected to just design the concrete for a pattern that they would put on the wall, and she wasn't going to fabricate it, because obviously this is pretty big, massive construction type work. So we had her design it, and then we worked, this first time we've done this, where we worked with the contractor, and the contractor took her designs, and they hired a subcontractor to realize these designs. I'll show you an image. There it is. So here it is, from drawing to clay mock-up. And just really quick, I'm jumping all over the place. Here is the Ocotillo. This was her inspiration. These Ocotillos are obviously indigenous to the area. They're beautiful. They come out. When I see them, I think of Phoenix. I think of the Phoenix metro area. This is home, the Phoenix Desert. They're gorgeous. They're used throughout the cultural history of the Arizona area. They make fences out of them. I mean, they're ubiquitous, and I really like them. So here she is. She's designed this beautiful piece, and her drawings are always so natural from nature, and linear, and quite gorgeous. So, and they created these clay mock-ups, and then they cast the concrete. And here are these concrete. You can see this was these panels are. Diane would tell me right now, but they're like. They're really large. I can't remember the size of them. Sorry. Oh, they're 5 by. The panels are approximately 5 by 10, and there's 23 distinct panels, and you can see what they're doing is they're holding up the dirt. And here's the contractors, the construction team, and they're placing these panels. And here's actually the artist. So I'm so pleased to have her. These huge panels that she's designed that hold the dirt, the earth. And hopefully they'll talk more about this much better than I can when we get there. But they hold the dirt in place, and then the bridge goes up from there. The other thing she designed were the columns that you saw that were holding up, that were supporting a series of columns that support the bridge and support the elevated station. And so here they are. And again, Ocotillo. We're hoping that these are going to be painted gray, and we will be then painting the flower portion of it red. So that might be a bit of a budget issue, but we are hoping that that's going to be the case. Here they are. Here's the again. And I think these contractors, we went out to a field visit, and when they were talking about them, they were really proud of being given this challenge and figuring out. They actually used some techniques that had never been used before. So the artwork was a challenge, and they were really, I think they were happy to be challenged by it. I think they were really happy to be part of something that's really this kind of cool. So here's all these columns going up. This is Metro Center in the top of the screen. Another thing I get to work with is ArtsLine. We have temporary artwork. So if you drive by the Roosevelt station on Roosevelt and Central Avenue, you will see another TPSS, traction power substation. And on the inside, the circular canopy is artwork for the Roosevelt Station. But what is one of the great things is that we have a spotlight artist. So we have twice a year, we will put up a big mural by these artists. This is an excellent way for artists to kind of get their feet wet in public art. This is a vinyl mural, so we take this is an instance where we, again, we ask the artists to supply images of their past work, and then we ask them to create artwork for the wall. And so twice a year, we have we spotlight a new artist, and that's always really exciting. So to kind of wrap up, I love traveling, I love art, and I guess I love transit now, and I love art. I get to work with artists. That's fabulous. I get to watch the artists working with the community, which is deeply, deeply gratifying. And I learned so much. I've learned more about the community and the people who live around me than I have ever done before. I get to work with designers and engineers. I get to work with the public relations people, contracts and procurement, planners, city staff. I mean, the number of people that it takes to make light rail work, and then afterwards, I work with the customer service people. I'm constantly being asked to, somebody will have a question about the artwork, or I might give a tour. I work with a maintenance group, which are fabulous, both my people that are on the staff here, as well as the maintenance for the rest of light rail. I got to put a call out for, Diane Kripe and Cheryl Marine, who work with me in the public art group, who work very hard and are an amazing team. But I get to experience the process from the start to finish, and that's really great. And then, of course, celebration at the end. So that is about it. I do have more if you want, but I think it's actually, we're looking like we're running out of time, so I'd be happy to take some questions.
So at this time, if you do have any questions, either type them in the Q&A section or in the chat. If you'd like to ask a question directly to MB, you can click at the bottom of the screen on participants and then click on the raise your hand option. And Bree will call your name and unmute you so you can ask your question. And once you have asked your question, if you're doing it that way, then make sure you click the raise your hand again so it's removed, so we know that you no longer have a question. And so go ahead at this time and submit any questions you have, or raise your hand now. And so MB, I actually have a couple of questions to start off the bat. First of all, Anita is on, and she sent a message to me saying that her 8-year-old daughter is watching on and off. And she's talking with her about the cool things that she could do in transportation. Her daughter wanted to know if there's anything about pets, specifically puppies, and that you have encountered as far as it relates to either work here on locally on our light rail or anything in any other city.
So I have to say, one of the artists, Mary Lucking, on the Northwest Extension, her station is right off of the park, the Rose Wofford Park, and her very first design was going to be about dogs, because there's a dog run, and she had these beautiful images of dogs just kind of sitting there, and they were all different types. And she had another design with the idea of kind of a bouncing ball and flowers, and that's the one that kind of won out. But I have to admit, I had this major soft spot for these fabulous dogs that would have been on the station. So I'm trying to think of any specific animal imagery that we have. There's a dog at the Mesa Drive station. There's a huge screen with a man holding a child holding a book, and there's this great dog at the base. That's actually Mary Lucking. It's the same artist who was going to do the dogs at the Mufford Park. But we don't. I think we need to put that as a criteria for the next station. Artists must include animal imagery, because I'm all about that.
And just a follow-up question from the same, Anita's daughter again, is I know this is true because I've worked with you on some projects, but she's asking about kids contributing to the art.
Oh yeah, absolutely. The artists are encouraged, to go out and work with the community. And some artists are better at that than others. The stereotype that artists kind of sit in their own little world and create, some of them do that. But one of the projects we had at the 19th and Dunlap Park and Ride, the artist Matt Salinger and Matt and Maria Salinger, they went out to different schools in the area, from all the way from, I think it was like kindergarten, all the way up to college students. And they gave presentations about architecture, current architecture around the world, fabulous, neat buildings. And they even had a section of, buildings that never happened because people weren't brave enough to do it. And then they asked the students to envision their school, and what if you were an architect and you could do whatever you wanted and plan your school, what would it look like? And the students came up with really amazing pieces. And they chose several of them. They kind of modified them a little bit. And then if you go to the station, you go to the plaza area, and you look up, there are a series of tubes that are part of the shade canopy. And if you look up, you will see these amazing images that the students wrote out or drew out rather of how their school should look if they were the architects. And so yeah, that's a good example of artists working with kids and having amazing artwork as a result.
And those same artists did the same thing in Mesa, and we worked with 3 schools. I think he asked different questions, but based on what the responses were, he incorporated that into his design at the end of line in Mesa as well.
Exactly.
I could ask you questions the whole time, but I think I need to give others a chance. So go ahead, Bree.
Yeah, so one of the questions is, what if a student watching today is interested in making a career out of doing public art? What advice would you give?
As an artist, do you think? I assume they mean as a public artist?
Yes.
Okay, so I would suggest the most important thing is to get your portfolio together, because when a selection panel, again, like I said, we always ask for qualifications, which is your past work. So the best thing to do is to get your all of your images of your work. And as a public artist, you want to establish yourself as an artist. So that's one thing. Really work on your craft. Make sure you know what you're doing. If you want to be a public artist, that's usually, but not always, outside. So think about, does your material work? Does it translate to the outdoors? And I would start off with smaller pieces, like go to our website and sign up for the Spotlight Artist, because that is a great way. You're not painting a huge mural, but we're making a mural vinyl from your small image. So start off, go to the Arizona Commission on the Arts, go to the different city, Phoenix Office of Arts and Culture websites where they will have calls for artists, and look for some of those temporary works. That's a great way to get your feet wet, because you can do a small $1,000, $5,000, $25,000 project where it's only up for a short period of time, but it's a great, it makes you think through the whole process of how you design something, how you fabricate something. Every time you fabricate something that's going to be outside where people will interact with it, it's got to be safe. It's got to be strong. You can't break. It has to stay strong under the weather. There's a whole host of real difficult issues that you have to go through. And if you start with temporary artwork, it is a great gateway. And then it also provides images for your portfolio, which you then will go to the next project with. So that's what I would master your craft and start with some temporary artwork.
You mentioned something in answering that made me laugh, because my next question is, so far along the alignment, have you had any issues with art gone wrong or fabrication gone wrong? Something that you've learned along the way?
Yeah, I mean, I think you always learn. When we have the artists present their work, it has to be engineered, so they have to go to an engineer to make sure it's safe and it will last. And they have to be fabricated professionally and have permits and certificates for welding and all that good stuff. But yeah, I mean, there's some areas just have a lot more the artwork gets beat up a little bit more. The stations get beat up a little bit more. So sometimes that's something that the artist can't do anything about. But we did have one piece where I didn't realize that the screws weren't in really, and we had a little microburst with huge winds, and the piece started kind of coming apart a little bit. So that was an instance where we had to go out and really double check everything and make sure that was good. For the most part, I haven't had anything that's been catastrophic, because we really try to do our due diligence before the artwork goes out. That my council of no, I may make fun of them, but they're actually, I've learned a lot from them, because the maintenance guys say, hey, is that gonna, are you sure the a statue made of Kleenex is going to survive? And no, it won't. So, and the safety people come out. So we really try to make sure that whatever goes out is going to last.
Well, talk about your team and how you do art maintenance. Is there a way that you schedule it, or is it just kind of repairing it as needed? And what does your team do to coordinate that with the artist?
A little bit of both. So Cheryl Marine is our collections management, our maintenance person, and she does a fabulous job. We try to go out and take photos of the artwork first when it comes out, so that we see it in its beautiful, pristine state, and that's where we try to keep it. That's the maintenance level that we try to keep it to. But as something, so we'll have regular maintenance. Our bronzes always go out and get cleaned and patinaed. We try to go out and reapply if there's an anti-graffiti coat, or if there's some kind of sealant, we try to go out and reapply those as needed. So we have a scheduled maintenance that we try to follow. Then we also have, the light bulbs have gone out, we need to replace the light bulbs, or someone has either graffitied it. Usually people are pretty good about not graffitiing on the artwork, because I think they to a certain extent, they respect that the artist has put a lot their heart and soul into doing this, and it really does beautify the station. But occasionally it does happen, and then there's just wear and tear where things will just kind of crumble. The sun is a killer. I mean, really is. So it's hard to maintain that. So Cheryl will go out. We try to go out once a year to do a kind of a state of the state. How is the artwork looking? We can compare it to the photos how it should look. And so she has a limited budget. So every year we kind of do what we can. But there's a few big ones. Paint, paint is just it under our sun, things need to get repainted. Our stations get repainted. Artwork needs to get repainted. We always go to the artists first if we can, just to let them know, because I think most artists want to know that the piece you gave me that I thought was going to last for 20 years is already falling apart. No, nothing that's severe. But we do want to make sure. Sometimes we'll ask the artist to refabricate something. Sometimes we'll just ask for, hey, we're going to change this a little bit. Is that okay? Or just to let them know. So we're always in contact with the artists, and then we proceed. But it's so it's an ongoing, constant battle. But I've got
it makes me think of the 19th Avenue and Montebello station, and how when the station got repainted, you went ahead and repainted the art that was above it.
That is a good example.
More of the purples that went to the rainbows, and it's just gorgeous.
The artwork these are these beautiful screens that the artist designed, and they had this this two-tone color. So if you looked at it from the left, it was purple, and if you looked at it from the right, it was green. And as you moved, it was really gorgeous. What the artist didn't realize was that it wasn't as effective as we had thought, because the light had to be perfect. If the light wasn't right, then you pretty much saw just kind of one color. But the other thing that we found out was that the paint that he used, it held up for a long time. It was an automotive paint, but it had to be baked on. And that was just really we just really couldn't do that in a maintenance way. It was just going to be too difficult. So we did take them all off, and we talked to the artist, and we said, hey, what do you want to do about this? And we were willing to kind of, within reason, do whatever he wanted to do. And he said, I was disappointed that the paint wasn't as striking and vibrant as I was hoping. So yeah, let's go ahead. And so he changed the color scheme entirely. And you're right, they're much more visible now. They have this kind of fun, kind of crazy hip color scheme. And I think everyone really likes it. And people were like, hey, I didn't know there was art up there. And because
it makes you smile.
He's a modern guy, and it was very subtle, but now it's a little bit more kind of like, hey, I'm up here, and it does make you smile.
So talk about what your favorite piece is along the line, if you're able to pick one.
I can't. They're like my children. I can't choose a favorite one. That'd be impossible. I was going
to ask that question too.
I've always wondered, because she knows what my favorite pieces are. I'm always talking about my favorite pieces, but I know that she's remained neutral every time I interact with you.
Yeah, no, and we have so many now. I mean, it was a little easier back when we only had maybe, 15 pieces, but now we have, dozens and dozens and dozens, which I'm really excited about. But yeah, there's so many. Depends on your mood and kind of what you're
So
into that day.
before Michael wraps it up, go ahead and talk to us, MB, about how you feel about your career. Because clearly you wanted to do something very different at the beginning.
I did.
And
I
now
think
you've ended up with this super
with
cool job,
this.
which I think most of us are like, wow, that is such a neat job.
I
So
kind of
talk about that.
I pinch myself every morning. You know, occasionally I'll be like, I don't want to go to work, as I think most people do. But then I I have to stop and say, are you really? Because you've got the best job in the world. I do love what I do. I still do my own artwork at home. You know, I don't think I will ever be the world renowned artist that I had expected myself to be, but I wasn't going to be the Secretary of State either, so that's okay. But you know, I do love my job for all the reasons I enumerated. And the fact that I think most people, when you're, in high school, you're trying to figure out what you want to do. And I guess my recommendation for you, other than that great advice that my sister gave me about volunteering is fabulous, because you can experience something, and people love volunteers. So anywhere you go, if you can spend a couple hours a day or a week and just show that you want to learn what they're doing, that is a fabulous way. So if you can find internships, or even if you just go and say, hey, I want to volunteer, explore your options, because there were lots of things. I did not enumerate all the things that I wanted to do when I was young. But I just kind of stuck on the two. But I'm still doing art, even if I'm not an artist, and I travel for fun now. But I'm transit is kind of travel, and I do love the fact that I get people around. I'm part of a team, rather, that gets people
Well,
around.
and you're helping to include art in our communities. That's going to be here for a very long time. And I think that's
Absolutely.
really a legacy that you're part of. And that's really cool
it's
to
really
say
nice.
that as part of
Yeah.
your of your job, is that you're doing something for our communities. And public art, it's really, I think it's underappreciated in terms of what it does for your community.
I think I agree. I think the artists who work here are they leave their mark. And I think that the light rail, people will take it anyways, because it's an important part of getting around. It's an important part of our connectivity. But to get around, there's one thing to go to a gray, emotionless, concrete bunker and sit down and wait for the train or the bus. And then there's another thing to go where somewhere is actually beautiful, where you can look and say, hey, I wonder what that means, and what's going on, and who thought about that, and oh my gosh, that's really gorgeous, or oh my gosh, that's crazy. That's what I think. And people can say, oh yeah, I was in that neighborhood. It's the one with the giant hands. So yeah, I think I really love what I do, and I love the people that I work with. Valley Metro is an amazing team. And I never realized that transit could be so, how many types. I hope that they talk about next week a little bit about the different types of people, engineers, construction workers, designers, and then everybody who makes Valley Metro work, all of the administrative people, community relations people. The family we have here is so far reaching, and so diverse. So, it's great. I really kind of lucked out. So
MB, we do have a couple minutes left, and I did have another question for you.
Okay.
And then another item for you to maybe talk about briefly. But my final question for you is, I have done work with you in the past on these light rail projects, and I know the community a lot of times has concerns or just wants more local artists' involvement.
Mhm.
So is there like a waiting system for local artists, or is it that you go to the community and see how important it is to them? What is the process for selecting a local artist versus a national artist?
So I really leave it up to the community, and what you'll find is that the selection panel that are made up of community members, they see the slides, and they talk through as they're talking through the artists, and maybe they come down to the 20 that they like the best, and then it's all a big discussion, and it's all about what we have to build consensus. So sometimes you'll have people who are adamant, we really need to have local people. We want to only a local person, or a person at least in the Phoenix metro area, can really express what we're all about. and you get the committee that says, yeah, that's fabulous. And we have such great local artists that's easy. Occasionally you'll find, equally, you'll find people who are like, no, let's just go for the art. And it's good. I really think it's important to bring artists from outside because they bring in a new perspective. They see Phoenix metro area in a totally different way, and they bring a whole new perspective. A lot of people will say, oh, hey, my cousin's an artist. Why aren't you looking at them? Public art and public artists are a different breed from artists. Artists usually can do their work in their studio, and they do it for themselves, or they do it for a commission specifically for one person who wants to have something. Public artists have to go through all of those things I talked about in terms of engineering and making sure it's safe and secure. And then on top of that, knowing that they have to design to that criteria, they have to make the community happy. So they've got a whole bunch of people, most of whom do not agree with each other. I wanted cowboy art. Well, I wanted modern art. Well, I wanted blue. Well, I wanted red. And so the public artist, not every artist wants to be a public artist. It is a super hard job. And it's something that we don't have, there's lots and lots of artists. There's really a niche group of public artists. And we are doing our best, both here and our partner cities, to really push artists into the public art realm slowly, and to kind of say, hey, it is really hard, but it's also really rewarding. But it is difficult because I think a lot of people just assume that anyone can be a public artist, and anyone can be one, but not everyone wants to be one. So I leave it up to get back to your question. I leave it up to the committee. And so far we've really had a good balance, I think, of local and national artists. So.
Perfect. Thank you for answering all those questions.
Absolutely.
And I want to give you a chance to advertise something Valley Metro does, the Design a Transit Wrap. Can you kind of describe what they do with that once a year, how a student has that opportunity?
Oh gosh, I wish you weren't asking me that. That's not really my field. I don't do that one. But
Okay.
I know that they do have that. I'm so sorry. I work more with the Arts Line, works for the Spotlight artists, but we don't do the student reps. But it is a fabulous program, and they come out with amazing artwork. And occasionally, I always wish they would ask me more often, but I have once or twice been on the committee to select them, but it's not my committee. Sorry.
Sorry, that's okay. Sorry to bring that up, but it is if anyone is interested in that, it is a chance for someone in a high school who wants to create a design that can be placed on both a Valley Metro bus and a light rail train. But it is an opportunity once a year, and one artist is selected, and the wrap is on those vehicles for 1 year. So a good chance if you are an aspiring artist, to get your work out there and get it visible.
And that gets that's what something you put in your portfolio so you can apply for the next job. So do it. So we
and
get
if that's something that looks like Bree got ahead of me, if you're interested in that, you can click on that link. Or if you aren't able to catch the link, you can always contact myself, and I will provide
the due date for it is coming up. It's February 11th, 2022. So you've got time. If you're interested in doing this could start your public art career, and you could add this to your portfolio right away. Very cool contest.
Thank you. So we are about out of time now. So the last thing we really have to do is announce the winner of the raffle. So I want to thank HDR, who has donated a $35 gift card. And during MB's presentation, I really didn't get too much information about other students participating outside of Anita's daughter, who asked a couple of good questions about puppies and other things. So she is going to be the winner today of a $35 gift card. And I did find out that she would really like an Amazon gift card. So we're going to provide that to, if Anita could go ahead and send an email to me at the michael.book@hdrinc.com. It's in the chat. So I know where to send the gift card, and then I will send it electronically to you when I get that information. So good. I'm glad she's excited. I'm excited for her. But thank you everyone for joining us today for MB Finnerty's presentation. And this session has been recorded and will be available on the WTS Metro Phoenix chapter website as soon as it is available. I will send meeting participants the link to access. The link will also be available on the Transportation UAZ Facebook and Instagram social media sites. So if you can, please forward the recorded virtual event link to other teachers, students, or other individuals who would be interested. And please encourage them to join our other events for this school year or view the other recorded sessions. In addition, go to those sites for information for upcoming program events. The next event that we have scheduled is just a few weeks away. It's going to be February 8th. MB alluded to it. We're going to be doing a virtual tour of the Northwest Extension Phase 2. We're going to have the project manager, the Valley Metro project manager, Tony Santana, presenting that project. So you'll have another chance to see some of the artwork that is being incorporated, and also kind of ask Tony maybe some questions on the other side, how the engineering part of the artwork gets put up, or you can just see other elements that we're doing for that project as well. But thank you for joining us. And once again, I am Michael Book, and if you have any program or event questions or suggestions, please send an email to me at michael.book@hdrinc.com. And again, thank you to MB Finnerty for presenting today, and I will see everyone on February 8th. Thank you.
Thank you.